A lot of times before we start our podcast, we do a Twitter poll, and I'm going to end up doing a Twitter poll right after we release this podcast. But I'm going to pose the question to you first. And the question is, if you are at an outdoor venue for a wedding reception, is it okay to pee freely wherever you want to pee?
I don't think it's just okay. I think it's encouraged.
At that wedding, did I tell you the story yet? That
I saw it.
Oh, you watched it happen? What happened?
Yeah. When you walked over to the bush to pee and the lady came out and freaked out on you and you just kept peeing while she was talking to you, like it didn't even, she was yelling at you and you kept pissing. It was my favorite thing ever. I was watching it the whole time.
Okay, but what are you supposed to do at that point? You know what I should have done?
Well,
I should have turned and just started peeing on her at that point.
That would have been comical, but yeah, you can't stop, obviously, then it hurts.
Can't stop, won't stop. Let's get loaded. Because this is the Loaded Box Podcast.
Where we never finish first because we finish last.
Oh, thank you once again for listening and tuning into the Loaded Box Podcast. This is a very hungover version of Ben Morgan and DJ Primo because, yes, we had a wedding. I have very few memories, but one of the memories is literally getting yelled at by this venue owner. Like, you can't pee on my property. And I remember one of the first things I said to her, I started yelling her my address and said, come on over and piss at my house.
I thought I had kept it under control all night in that wedding, just like the Benson party. I thought I was sober. And next thing you know, I was just shit-faced drunk. I don't even know where that happened. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how it happened, but I was just shit-faced.
How not looking forward to this beer that you just cracked are you not looking forward to, if that's a real sentence?
I mean, I just gagged during that first drink, and I've shit my pants like 3 times today, so.
I haven't even taken a sip yet. I'm going to introduce the podcast topic, and then when you start talking, I'm finally going to have a sip. So we're going to see how that goes down. But we are back. It is the 2019 Fantasy Football Positional Rankings. Today we are talking running back 2, so that's running backs ranked 13 through 24. Rather than dissecting each player, we're going to do something a little different, which we've been doing with these episodes. We're going to bring up scenarios and questions regarding these players and the upcoming fantasy season. And if you missed the last episode, we did the same things, but with quarterbacks 1 through 12, and we already did quarterbacks 13 through 24. So we're just rolling our way through these player rankings, so go back and check those out if you missed those. But the running backs that we are going to be bringing up today include the likes of Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Marlon Mack, Kerryon Johnson, Devontae Freeman, Leonard Fournette, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, David Montgomery, Mark Ingram, Phillip Lindsay, and Chris Carson. So, DJ, I'm going to pose this first question to you. I'm going to take a sip of my beer, and we're going to see how all this goes. Are you ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
Sounds like a plan. All right, so in this scenario, we've got Marlon Mack, Kerryon Johnson, Devontae Freeman, and Leonard Fournette. All of those players right now, their ADP are basically between 3.04 and 3.06, so they're interchangeable in the rankings. But let's say that you have this early third-round pick, all 4 of them on the board. Who are you targeting? What's your pick here?
Well, there's a couple of guys out here I'm a big Marlon Mack fan, understand that, but they have a lot of weapons on there. I think they just brought in Dante Foreman there, and people are starting to freak out. I don't think he's a reason to worry about because he is lazy.
Don't you think maybe there's a chance he doesn't even make the roster? Like, that crossed my mind today. I'm like, dude, he's not a sure thing to make it.
Yeah, they have 3 running backs already, right. So I don't know why he would. Leonard Fournette has the injury concerns on top of the fact that they just are a running team that people are just going to load the box against.
Boom.
So that's a worry. And Devontae Freeman also is one of those injured. I mean, 3 out of 4 of these guys. I mean, all 4 of these guys got injured last year at some point. Like, they were out because of injuries.
Right.
The one I'm most confident in is the rookie, Kerryon Johnson. I kind of hyped him up a little bit. I was excited about the production he had when he was on the field. And I did the math before, and I didn't do it now because I don't prep for this shit. But Kerryon Johnson would have had an incredible season if he played out every game. I think he would have been a RB1 last year. So for me, it's easily Kerryon Johnson because I think they're trying to take that weight off of Stafford's shoulders. Kerryon has nobody to compete with in the end zone or anywhere on the field at this point. So this is pretty much Kerryon's team at this point as long as he stays healthy.
It almost feels wrong when I think about this question because honestly, I kind of like all four of these guys, but based on what you said about all those injuries, I don't feel like it's right. Like I feel like I need to key in on like one or two of these guys because of the fact that they are going right in there. And if you start out your team like running back first round, wide receiver second round, you're probably going to end up taking the best running back available in round three. So this is a very like realistic situation to fall into. And I have to do, obviously, it's only the early August, so we have a little bit of time, see how training camp, see how these guys hold up. But man, it's just the idea of maybe getting Leonard Fournette in the third round when you were taking him with pick 5 or 6 last year. Like, how do you turn that down? I love on Johnson. I think Freeman's going to have a nice bounce back year. I'm not quite as high on Marlon Mack as you are. But man, you're getting a guy that you know has first round like capabilities in Leonard Fournette. He's going to be the bell cow guy. That team is still going to try to run the shit out of the ball despite getting Nick Foles. Like, it just feels like a steal almost getting Fournette in the third round.
You know, I thought that last year. I went into a PPR league. Stupidest thing I've ever done, actually. One of my worst moves. And I was honed in. I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey and Devontae Adams with pick 12 if both those guys are there. I got a pick 12. Fournette was still on the board. For some reason, I was thinking, God, how do I not take Leonard Fournette with all the touchdowns he scores?
Yeah.
And I talked myself into Leonard Fournette, and I was mad at myself after I talked myself into Leonard Fournette still. If I took McCaffrey along with Devontae, I easily win that. I was like third in the league, but I easily win it with those two.
Yeah, I get your point there, but it's just like, yeah, I'm struggling. I took Leonard Fournette in a different league, literally 5 overall, and now I don't want to get burned by him again. But man, I might have to go down that road with him.
No, I don't know.
Let's look on to the next one here. So in these rankings, there are 2 rookies. That's Josh Jacobs and David Montgomery. Do you think that their ADPs are a bit inflated? Right now, we've got Josh Jacobs going at 3.11. David Montgomery's going at 4.03. Do you think that's inflated? Do you think they're going to live up to these ADPs? What is your take on the rookies?
I'm trying to look to see where I actually had Josh Jacobs ranked.
I feel like you were pretty high on Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I had him at 18, and that ADP he's going at is running back 20, so I'm pretty close with that projection. I'm a little bit higher. I actually love Josh Jacobs. I've said it before. I talked about it in Mikey's article he dropped the other day or week or whenever he dropped that trash article when we did our mock draft. I hyped up Josh Jacobs. I actually drafted him as the 4th pick in that one. I was more than happy to get him there because I got Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs, I think, back-to-back rounds. So, I had a little chub going on. But, yeah, I don't think Josh Jacobs was hyped up. Now, Montgomery, on the other hand, people are forgetting that Cohen is like the key cog in that offense and is probably the one thing that's going to make Trubisky look better than what Trubisky is. Mm-hmm. Everybody's so high on Trubisky this year, MVP talk. I guarantee Trubisky has a not good year. Like, I think the Bears are going to suffer this year because of Trubisky, but that's not, what we're talking about at this point. But anyways, Cohen is a key cog there. Everybody's obsessed with this one fucking video today that came out with Montgomery, and now they're shooting up RB22 and going in the no, I'm not doing that. I'm not anywhere near him. He's way too hyped up. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the thing that we've seen though is like you and I have the same like strategy and theory on rookies when they come into the NFL. It's basically tread lightly on them. Unless you're a running back, like you might be able to live up to it. We've seen Zeke do it. We've seen Saquon do it. We saw Kamara do it. It's proven that like your rookie running backs can make an impact in fantasy football. And yeah, I agree with you because Cohen's there. He's kind of like the end-all be-all playmaker that the Bears can always utilize. And I'd rather have Cohen than Montgomery this fantasy season for sure. But I think when you look at like pure volume of carries, it's likely going to be Montgomery, and that's why he's getting picked that high. It's like, well, who else are you going to take in that area? Who's going to get that kind of volume? So you kind of have you have those theories as well. The thing though, like what you said, the one thing you didn't say about Josh Jacobs is who the hell else is going to be? Is Doug Martin going to steal carries from Josh Jacobs or targets? There's no chance. That's why if you want this guy, you're going to have to go up and get him. And it sounds like you're on board for doing that. Like, are you comfortable with Josh Jacobs as your starting running back 2 each and every week?
Absolutely, 100%. Like Like if I had to go wide receiver scenario just because the pick felt that way, I'd be happy to have either Jones or Jacobs as like my RB1.
Well, that's what you could
or
do.
Johnson.
You could go receiver, and then in the late third, you could go Jacobs. Early fourth, you could go Montgomery.
I don't want Montgomery.
Would you rather have Cohen than Montgomery this year?
I just saw what happened to Jordan Howard last year, and I hyped him up.
Right.
And I just don't understand why they would change that whole philosophy when it's working. Like that's what worked for them. So we're not going to just change something because they have a running back that looks like he might be able to run everybody over. But it's also the NFL, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, quick update. This beer actually doesn't taste terrible. I can't believe this is a real life right now.
I've already thrown up 3 times.
I'm excited to ask you this next question because it's very rare when DJ puts in like a lot of prep work. He likes to just go, what's on his mind? What did he see? How does he just take in the game? So I am actually asking you for a stat prediction here. So you better think about this as I ask you. Number of rushing yards, number of rushing yards and rushing touchdowns, number of receiving yards and receiving touchdowns for your boy, Aaron Jones.
So that's funny. I actually already made a prediction for, again, in Mikey's article, I actually sent yards and touchdown prediction rushing for Aaron Jones.
So
I did receiving.
You accidentally fell into prep.
I did. So for rushing, I said 1,033 yards and 9 touchdowns. That was my prediction. So I'll go receiving yards. This is easy. I'll go 537 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns receiving.
Are you comfortable with Aaron Jones as your RB1?
Yes.
Even with those numbers?
Yeah.
See,
that puts him in like top 7.
Yeah, I'm probably repeating something I've said on a previous podcast. It's just, don't you feel like when you have Aaron Rodgers, like you can talk as much as you want to talk about a new head coach, about new play calling, about trying to get the run game going. Don't you think that even if there's a hint of struggling, it's going to be like, we're putting the ball in Rodgers' right hand. Like that's what we have to do in order to try to win. And that kind of takes away Jones.
His best years were when they have a running threat and he can run that play action, and they're bringing that back more than what they have. Last year was just an anomaly, as in I'm just going to fucking throw the ball every play because I don't like McCarthy, and I'm just going to throw it constantly. Like, our team sucks. Our defense isn't good. So I'm just going to change every play, and I'm going to throw it. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm giving you the okay to give us a little homer bias-y here. But what is the absolute earliest in a standard redraft league that you're taking Aaron Jones this year?
I'd take him into second easily.
I thought you were going to say 101 just to be an asshole.
No, because I have him as RB9 right now. I think he'll finish as RB7-ish. But, yeah, I'll take him into second. I want him. I need him.
I like it. Before we get on to the next one, let's talk about Pristine Auction real quick because we are going to be doing another giveaway leading up to the 2019 NFL season. But in the meantime, we can get you an extra $5 to put towards any item that you successfully win at pristineauction.com. Enter the code LOADED in the registration code field when you create your account. They have daily auctions, week-long auctions, tons of stuff for all sports for the man cave. So head over to pristineauction.com today.
I lied. I'm looking at this, and I would take him before Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb, and that's early second round.
It's almost a full round early.
Yeah.
There it is. There's that homer bias-y. I like it.
I think it's just smart. That's what I do.
All right, so here's a weird one for you. You remember Kareem Hunt, that weird guy that got in trouble last year?
He kicked a girl.
Remember that guy that kicked that girl in that elevator video or whatever that was?
I almost just said something problematic. Caught myself.
Nice catch. Does him returning after his 8, because he got suspended first 8 weeks, does him returning after that suspension make you at all nervous about drafting Nick Chubb at his current ADP, which is the 8th pick in the second round?
I mean, I really don't think so. I think he'll be a guy that maybe gives him a blow every now and then, but they play the same type of style, so I don't think he's going to really take away from Nick Chubb, according to your notes. Nick Chubb, you're just into baseball season apparently. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't worry me. And I don't. Is he gonna end up making the team for sure? I don't know. But yeah, I'm not worried about that at all. I'm not thinking about that.
I mean, Hunt is the guy that's like obviously on the shortest leash possible. They have very little invested in him. It's the 8 game
Yeah.
suspension. And in fantasy, yeah, that sucks to think that down the line. But man, you got to just scratch and survive like those first 7, 8 weeks, anyways. You need to have those guys. And then I feel like when he gets back, say he cuts into the timeshare, even if he takes like 25, 30% of the snaps that Chubb was getting, like you just got to survive and move on to the next guy. You need to draft probably maybe a safer pick along with Chubb. But man, we saw it last year. The ceiling is crazy for Nick Chubb. Remember that one game when he scored like twice on his first 3 touches and had like 995 total yards already?
Yeah.
Like you have that kind of potential in this guy in that offense. I think that Browns offense is going to be. I'm not breaking any news. A lot of people think it's going to be legit. Baker set the rookie quarterback touchdown record with what, like 27 last year. There's going to be some points scored in that offense. I think Baker and the receivers are going to eat the most. But man, after looking at just how quickly like bell cow running backs drop off, you can't let the Kareem Hunt thing get in your way whatsoever. You have to have Chubb. Like Chubb's going to legit in some leagues be someone's first running back.
So I got 2 things I want to say. One, somebody's probably in your league going to draft Kareem Hunt, thinking they're like being smart.
Right.
My thought on that is not even a thought. That if you draft him right away, I think that's dumb because you're not going to keep holding his roster spot by week 8, trying to make a bunch of moves because you got guys injured or doing something else, and you're not going to let Nick or Kareem Hunt just be sitting on your bench while you're holding him for week 9 when you're getting that close to the playoffs at that point.
Right.
Like, that game is important, especially at the end of the season when you're trying to vie for that 6th spot, 5th spot, or whatever, the 1 seed. There's no way Kareem Hunt's on your team at that point. Like, it's just dumb drafting him.
Right.
The second point I was going to make was, did you see fucking Cowherd today talking about Baker Mayfield? And, he's a little too good at chugging beers for my franchise quarterback. Like, I don't understand why he gets on this hate train of, like, he's done it with Rodgers. Like, he'll try to compliment him, be like, he's a very talented quarterback, so he can, like, cover his ass. Both of these guys he does that for. Mayfield and Rodgers, but then he'll say like the bad things that he can, and he'll just say it. But then he'll double back and be like, very talented quarterback, but not my quarterback. Bad in the locker room or parties too hard. The Cleveland Browns are the best frat in the NFL, and he does all these stupid fucking comparisons, and I want to just slap my dick on his face.
If you happen to not see what DJ was talking about, Baker Mayfield didn't even just chug that beer; he physically ate it. He physically ate that beer. And I'm with you on that. Like, shut up. I don't care about your frat party. We all know that this is either going to work and it's going to be Super Bowl, or, man, that's going to blow up and shit's going to hit the fan after week 5. Going back to your first point, though, about Kareem Hunt and not drafting him, I'm with you. But there is a league that you and I are in together where usually by the time we start drafting, we're damn near double-digit beers deep. So over under on number of beers that you would need to draft before you think drafting Kareem Hunt will be a good idea, because it's going to cross your mind after about 15, 16 beers.
I usually play this game at work with my coworker when we're talking about girls. So, with how many beers?
Over under 15.
Fuck, I mean, it would be. I need a couple of shots and like 10 beers in order to draft Kareem Hunt.
Dude, I was in that league a couple of years ago where I ended up drafting 3 quarterbacks in the first 12 rounds because I had way too many beers.
That's the worst.
Punted on that one. Here's an interesting name. Derrick Henry, the man who had basically his entire season over like a 3 or 4 week stretch last year. Current ADP is the 11th pick in the 3rd round. DJ, are you comfortable taking him there? And if not, how far would he have to drop before you are comfortable taking him?
I'm just looking at who's getting taken around 11th pick in the 3rd round.
Well, and it's also funny to think about, like, and I think I talked about this with Mikey on a podcast you weren't around for, but it's like, let's just say Derrick Henry would have stuck to his, like, 40-yard average. those like last 4 weeks. And granted, we all know he didn't. You have to count the stats that he had. But where the hell would his ADP be if it wasn't for that?
You know what's crazy is I remember last year, and I don't know if you recall, but I'm sure you do, is all year I was saying the Titans cannot use Dion Lewis the way the Patriots could do it. And
right.
I've said that since week one. Like, they need to stop doing that shit and just give Derrick Henry the ball because it's not working.
Yep.
And I figured that out 14 weeks before they did. And when they finally did it, it was money. So I don't think they're going to hesitate doing that. I don't know why he wouldn't be worth a pick that round, because you have to assume that they continue to ride Derrick Henry, especially with the garbage quarterbacks they have there, and that's just kind of the style of football they have to play.
That's kind of the thing, though, with Henry. It's like people have propped him up in rankings for like multiple years now, and last year was the whole like Lewis versus Henry debate, and we all saw how that played out. It didn't really work for either of them until the very end of the season. But it's like, yeah, when Derrick Henry's gotten the carries, he's gotten the production, but we've just never been able to trust the team to do the right thing.
And the thing is, he might not be great in the first to the second, but once he gets to the end of the third or the fourth quarter, that's when he's going to start murdering you. You just keep giving him the ball, keep giving him the ball, keep giving him the ball, and eventually that's where Derrick Henry starts to bust out because he's just bigger and stronger than those guys. And quite frankly, they're sick of tackling him because he's a fucking moose. Like, he's coming through, and it gets tiring, and it just does. And that's what happens with certain guys. Adrian Peterson, Marshawn Lynch was that way. You just get sick of tackling them. And they keep getting the ball, and you're like, "Fuck, not this guy again." If they consistently give him the ball throughout the game, eventually he's going to break out some big ass runs.
I agree that, especially when you actually look at like the rankings at the ADP, who's available in those spots. Yeah, it's kind of hard to pass on Henry there, but I'm not gonna lie. So end of the third round, he's going. I would need it to be probably the fifth round to feel comfortable with him.
I see the guys around there, though. Are you like, I'm not taking David Montgomery or Phillip Lindsay or Chris Carson.
Oh, see, I would.
Or Michelle ahead of them. Not a single one of those guys.
Oh, see, I definitely would, because it's this thing. I've been this Henry believer for so long that I'm like I'm just tired of being like incorrect or wrong, or him being utilized the wrong way, and it's like totally thrown me off. Like, I can't let my third pick be a guy who showed up for a quarter of the season and it was at the very end after I already would have been out of playoff contention. Like, no one even used him in that game against the Jaguars when he popped off with all those yards and touchdowns, because everyone was sick of him getting you 2 points a week. There are people that dropped him. He wasn't even on the roster at that point. It's just too much like in the past that if someone wants to make him their third overall pick like on their team, more power to you. It can't be me. Fifth round, and I probably won't end up with him in an entire league because he's going to go before the fifth.
I mean, that's your mistake. You're going to jump off 1 year too early.
See, I'd be a little scared of that, but I've gotten to the point like mentally where I'm okay with it.
All right, we'll see about that.
Speaking of Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram and Lindsay, both going right now middle of the fourth round. I would take both of those over Henry, by the way. Between those two, let's say you're in need of a running back middle of the fourth round. Are you going to go Ingram? Are you going to go Lindsay?
I mean, I've talked about this 1,000 times. It's Mark Ingram for me. Like 100 times out of 100. I don't know. The Denver question. Everything in Denver, I'm just going to question. It is what it is. It's not an elite offense. It has Joe Flacco. I don't know what to think is coming out of there. Mark Ingram's going to carry the ball. The Ravens run it, and they control the ball. That's how they win games. They play defense, and they run the ball.
One second, though, real quick, because I want to bring this up before you go on to any of your other points. Couldn't we have really said the same thing about Denver's offense last year? Like, you didn't believe in Case Keenum. You weren't really quite sure what to think about that entire team. And Lindsay still popped off for like over 1,000 yards, damn near double-digit touchdowns. He was a very, very fantasy relevant, a guy that people picked up off the waiver wire. So, like, I don't know that too much has changed because I'm with you. I don't like Joe Flacco. But yeah, I just feel like I'll let you go, and I'll cut in about my guy Lindsay in a second.
What are you doing there? Are you taking it in the butt or what?
If you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing some Pilates.
I don't know what you're doing. Anyways, Phillip Lindsay also has to deal with Royce Freeman, and he didn't get paid a shit ton of money. Mark Ingram did get paid a bunch of money to come in there and carry the ball. They're going to field the ball. I don't know what they're going to do with Lindsay. So I'm going to take the guy I know is going to get the ball in comparison to the guy who could be at a 50-50 share, for Christ's sake.
And I'm cool with that. I'm not opposed to drafting Mark Ingram. I think I would take Ingram or Lindsay, like middle of the fourth round. Say one's already off the board, I would take the other. I would have no issues with that. What kills me a little bit about the Ingram thing, we've seen what he can do, but he's done that on the Saints offense and that Ravens offense. Like if you can imagine an exact opposite of the Saints offense, it's the Ravens offense, and I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. And if they get behind, I know that they're going to have to run the ball. But if they get behind and they're forced to pass, Mark Ingram's basically gone. Like he's not going to be the guy that's likely in the game getting any carries or receptions. Versus Lindsay, he can do it all. And I think that the Broncos are going to be like a touch more competent. So it's just I don't mind them both, but I think you feel like Ingram's safer. I just don't know how much safer he really is. As DJ slams that beer that he's already going to throw up 4 times on.
I think I have like a pain in my chest from drinking right now. It's like gone bad. Like it's not like I'm actually hurting on the insides. Like it's not good. I can't wait to not drink at all tomorrow because I'm dying right now.
We have sacrificed so much for this podcast today.
Sacrificed my goddamn heart, my body, my butt. It's just awful. My butthole was on fire. It was awful.
Rough day.
Yeah, but Ingram, again, the Ravens are going to stay in games because their defense allows them to do that, and Ingram's going to consistently get the ball for that reason. So I don't ever think that the Ravens are going to be out of a game because they like to lose by a few points in close games. But I'm not worried about them being blown out like ever. They control the ball. That's what they do. And they're not going to let Lamar Jackson turn it over, and that's going to be by him handing it off to Mark Ingram and probably not running as much as everybody thinks he's going to.
Well, and
maybe a little Marcus Mariota play action like his first year.
Well, yeah, and it's like you said, too. They do have that defense where they're likely not going to be just like shunned out of a game. So they're probably going to be in it. But like I said, man, I'm cool with either of those guys, but I'm a Lindsay truther. I'm gonna sink or freaking float on this Phillip Lindsay device all year. Like he's gonna be on way too many of my teams.
God knows you can't swim.
I definitely need the Phillip Lindsay life float. I ain't swimming anywhere.
Nope.
The last question I have prepped for you, DJ, is a little game I have decided to call Chris Carson versus. Basically, I'm going through some of the next running backs in line, the ones that are knocking on the door of being in that RB2 tier here. And I'm going to say whether you would rather have Chris Carson or that running back for this fantasy season. I've got 5 of them. You ready to go?
I guess.
All right. Chris Carson. I should have called it Chris Carson or. Why did I call it verse?
I don't know.
Let's change this. The game is now called Chris Carson or. First one, Chris Carson or Sony Michel?
I'm going to reluctantly go Sony Michel here.
Okay, I'm going to go Michel too without the reluctancy. Number 2, Chris Carson or Kenyon Drake?
Chris Carson.
Yep, clean sweep for Carson there. Number 3, Chris Carson or James White?
Probably James White here.
Is James White always the most improbable running back to try to predict when it comes to fantasy?
Yeah, and the reason I say it is because it seems like it's Julian Edelman and James White in the passing game for me, for that team. So, besides just running the ball, he's going to just catch it a ton.
Yeah. Number 4, Chris Carson or Tariq Cohen?
God, this is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Because they run the ball more than everybody in the league.
Right.
Oh, shit. Because I like Cohen too, but I'm going to go Chris Carson.
All right. I'm also, that was my hardest one. I'm 50-50 on that one as well. I'm going to give it a slight lean to Carson just because of what I consider to be a little bit more guaranteed touches, whereas Cohen has the big play all over him. And the last one, Chris Carson or Darius Geis?
Chris Carson.
Yeah, I got to be with you on that one. I'm going to throw a bonus one in here. Chris Carson or Rashad Penny?
Ooh. That's like, that doesn't make sense. Like, right now you have to go Chris Carson because you expect him after last year to be the RB1, but you don't know how much more, you don't know how fast Chris Carson can wear down because, he doesn't not take hits. That's all he does is take hits. And it's the running back position, and they're going to use Penny. So I don't know. Yeah. That's the part that makes me nervous. You know what's really crazy is Darius Geis's hype train last year was second, third round, and it's definitely not been like that this year, which I find weird. ACL now is like recovering from a torn, recovering from a broken leg. Like, people don't even think about it that much. Like, I was reading today, but like, there was a good tweet. The Achilles heel tear is now the new ACL.
Oh yeah.
ACL is like the broken leg. Like, people are just like, oh, and then they're like fine the next year and recover quickly.
Yeah, isn't it like? Do you chalk that up basically to like just the Redskins in general, their quarterback situation, offensive linemen like holding out, demanding trades? Like, that's what I chalk it up to, because I think that a running back on that team can be fantasy relevant. But man, given like their quarterback situation and just like a bleak outlook that I have for the Redskins this year, man, I don't think there's a possibility where I draft Derrius Guice. I think in that area where he's going, I'm going to find someone else to just take a chance on.
Do you think Pretty Ben Albright still thinks Case Keenum's good and he's not even this number one quarterback on the Redskins right now?
I saw that and I think it might be a misprint.
I feel like Dwayne Haskins might end up as the starting quarterback. Like, I think he's just better than everybody else on the roster.
Give him a chance, man. Throw the rookie in. See what he has.
See what he has. I don't know what it matters when your team's losing, but
right.
Maybe they're like, I don't know. Are they a team that thinks they can win or not? I don't know. It's going to be weird.
The last question that I have for you on this podcast episode is because last week you went to a Packers training camp, and I think it was earlier today. They're having joint practices with the Texans, correct?
Yep.
And J.J. Watt broke a little kid's bike. Let's just hypothetically say that you would have brought your kid and his bike, and J.J. Watt would have broke it. What would have happened to J.J. Watt?
He would have been buying Braylon the biggest bike that was actually a car in the whole world.
That's what you have to do with your Watt, though, right? Don't you literally have to, like, bypass the bike and just say, like, all right, dude, I'm going to get you one of those, like, kid cars, but... And then you would be back like, no, dude, that kid will turn 16 at some point. You get that damn kid a real car.
He's buying him a new bike, he said, so win for that kid.
Win for the kid, but more like a shoo-in for that kid.
Yeah,
Oh, gosh. Do you have anything else you want to add to this, or do you want to just finish that beer and call it a damn day?
I just want to watch Bachelor in Paradise and call it a night.
What a worst way to end a podcast. As always, check us out on Twitter at LoadedBox. Check out our website for our latest blogs, podcasts, fantasy rankings. Everything you need in life is there, loadedboxpodcast.com. Our next episode, we'll be doing the same thing, but running backs 1 through 12. Also available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. DJ, send us away.
Bye.